In this video, I'll walk through how to program a large part like this with two cutting heads, where we're going to use heads 1 and 2 to cut these holes here. We'll use head 1 to cut this, and then also we'll use head 1 to trim the left edge, while at the same time we're using head 2 to trim the right edge, and then we'll do head 1 and 2 across the top and across the bottom. And for this, I'm going to be using IGEMS R2. If you aren't aware of it, there's a different post-processor, newer post-processor referred to as R2, where if your machine name shows up as bold, then that indicates that you're using an R2 post-processor, which has a .ipf extension. If you go into your machine settings, post-processor, you've got this selection here for revision 2 IPF post-processor. So that's one thing you need if you're going to do something like this. And then look at our settings for our cutting tools. So I've got this set up with two cutting tools. We've got our minimum and our fixed head spacing, as well as our maximum, and CNC movable tool distance, closest tool spacing, and coordinate to first tool. So that's how I've got this set up right now. So first of all, we'll go ahead and just put Toolpath on here like we normally would. And then we're going to delete these two off because we're going to use head 2 to cut those again. At the same time, we're using head 1 to cut these. And just as a quick review, of course, if we wanted to cut two of these parts simultaneously, if we had a machine that was wide enough and we needed to cut multiples of this, we could go into our tools area up here and choose the number of tools that we want to use. If your head spacing isn't already set correctly, you can click on this minimize button here, click on the part, hit enter, and then we got our part distance between the parts, can enter a value, and you'd be cutting both of these simultaneously. However, that's not what we're going to do here, so we'll undo that, and we're going to delete these two cuts off. And then we will go down into the Toolpath submenu here to Tool Setup, and that's going to prompt us select objects. So click the tool paths that we want to apply two head cutting to, hit enter. And if I move this out of the way here, so these are the two tool paths that I've selected. Right now they're using head 1 only. And so for this cut here, if I want to use both heads, I can click on this little image here. Right now it shows what the distance is between those two heads. You get a representation of where that would be on the part. And then to change that head spacing, you can click on one of these numbers, either one, and that's going to prompt specify distance. You can either type in a number, or if you don't know the distance, you can use whatever snapping points that you want to specify that head spacing. And then we can do the same thing on the other one. Again, click on the head 2 icon here, click on the number, and then choose your snap points. And then we can close. So take a look at the code. So when it gets to this point, it will set that head spacing to that 64 inches. And then here we're cutting that first hole with two heads, and then two heads, and then sets the head spacing to the minimum to then cut the large hole in the middle. And then right now it'll be head 1 cutting the entire perimeter. So what if we don't have enough travel for head 1 to get all the way over here? Take a look at how we can use that tool setup command to cut both of these edges with two heads simultaneously. We'll go ahead and delete that outside cut. And then we'll use our quick command to add a cut. Specify what you want for lead in length, lead out length, and other settings. If you want to specify lead angles, you can check this box. If you just want to take the default lead angles, you can leave that unchecked. We want this to be compensated, so it'll offset for tool diameter. Click on single, and then specify start. We'll click down here on lower left-hand corner, and then endpoint, we'll click on the upper left-hand corner. And for path, we want to cut that, so I'll left click there. So that would give us cut along the left edge. And we'll just go ahead and use our tool setup on that. select objects. We want to work on this toolpath. Left click on it, hit enter, and click on T2. That again is the current head spacing. We see a little line representing where that would be. Click on the number to adjust that distance. Specify distance. So if I click here, gives us 80 inches. Now what you have to watch for on a situation like this is we have to take the stream width into account. So we zoom in here. This red line is where the toolpath is actually going to be, center of the toolpath. So if we cut it like this part would end up being undersized by 40 thousandths of an inch because we'd have 20 thousandths on this side, 20 thousandths on that side. So in a situation like this, you'll need to take that stream width into account. So we'll click on this number again here. This time I will type in 80.04. So I've got about a 40 thousandth stream width. And then that line shifts. So this should be much more accurate. And we'll close that. And we'll do cut across the top. So basically go halfway across with head 1 and then simultaneously be cutting with head 2 the other half of it. So back to our quick command. And we'll do our single again. Start point, I'll left click here. End point, I'll left click on my midpoint here. This is what I want to cut. So I left click when that's highlighted. And then enter. And close. We're going to zoom in to see what we've done. So we've got lead in, and it'll cut to here, and we've got a little bit of a lead out. If you prefer to go straight across on that lead out, let's delete that and go back to our quick. If I check lead angles, then I will be able to specify what angle I want to approach this at. So we'll do single again, start point, left click here, end point, left click at the midpoint there, left click to highlight where I want to cut. And now it's going to prompt me for information about the lead in. So as I move my mouse around, if I want to come in at a shallow angle here, I can hit enter. And then for the lead out, if I want to go straight out there, I can hit enter when I'm in that direction. And we'll do a similar thing at the bottom. Start point here, end point here, direction, we want to go that way. And lead in again. If I want to come in at a slightly shallow angle, we'll hit enter when it's like that. And then for the lead out, when it's like that, I'll hit enter. And now we can go back into our tool setup, choose our toolpath we want to edit, hit enter, and this is the one at the bottom. Click on T2, click on the number, specify distance, and to midpoint, so 40. You can click on other toolpath, again click on T2, and I can either click those 2 points again, or just type in a number since it's going to be the same. And close. So let's just check our cut sequence. Click on edit here, click on the part somewhere. So do those holes, the big hole in the middle, left and right edge, top, and then bottom. And I'll take a look at the code. So we've got the head spacing for those 2 holes again. And then it's going to wrap it over to here, sets our head spacing to that 80.04, turns on both heads, cuts that edge, adjust the head spacing to 40 inches, turn on both heads, cut the top edge, and then cut the bottom edge. Okay, so now what if we have a 3-headed machine? And what if instead of 2 holes here of the same diameter, we've got 3, and what if they're not even at even spacing? Well, let's take a look at that. So So let me switch to a different machine here. So I've got a 3-headed version of this. So 3 heads again, CNC movable head spacing, and so on. Let's explode this. X, the shortcut for explode. And we'll click on this. We'll do a copy, Shift-C, shortcut to copy. And we'll put that 20 inches over. Okay, so we will again delete that, and we'll do that. And we might as well delete that. Let's see, let's go back to our toolpath, tool setup. Again, select objects. We're actually going to select this one also, show you some things we can do there. So now our representation shows 3 heads, and right now tool 1 is active. So if I want heads 2 and 3 also active, click on those, and then we can set our head spacing. So click on here, this will set head spacing from center of there to center of there. And then I can click here and go from center of here to center of here. So you get the spacing between the heads and then the overall spacing. So that's that one. And then this one we can do like before, but we can choose, do we want to use heads 1 and 2 or 1 and 3? So if we want to use heads 1 and 3, select T3. Right now that's the overall distance between those two. You can click on that and we'll do a center to center. And then finally on this hole in the middle, right now it's being cut with head 1. If we want to cut this with head 2, you basically drag the active head to the head that you want to be active. So right now head 1 is active, or tool 1's active. Click on this, I drag this to head 2. Now that's going to be cut with head 2, or I can drag it over to head 3, and that would be head 3. So let's take a look at what we've got so far. So here we've got the head spacing from 1 to 2 at 20 inches, and then 40 inches from head 2 to 3. You got the 3 heads turning on. And then after that, changes the head spacing to 32 inches from 1 to 2 and 2 to 3 to give us 64-inch total head spacing from 1 to 3 for those 2 holes there. And then it sets them back to their minimum, and then we're cutting the internal, the large center hole with head 2. And then if we want to do like we did before on the outside, we'll go back to our quick command. And we'll do single, left click, left click, left click. I'll lead in and enter for lead out. And let's set our toolpath on that. So again, we'll do heads 1 and 3 for this. Click on my distance. Now, of course, again, I know that this is actually going to be 80.04 because of our tool diameter. And then if we want to divide the top and bottom cuts evenly, easiest way probably to do that would be to offset a line here. So I'm going to draw a line from here up to here. And I'm going to offset that by, well, this is where a calculator comes in handy. 80 divided by 3, 26.667 we'll call it. So O for offset, 26.667. Now I'll be able to use those intersection points for my endpoint and start points for my quick command. So back to quick. And single, start point, endpoint. I'll right click, I'll do intersection, or I could do perpendicular. And left click and lead in. Again, I might want to come in at a slightly shallow angle there, hit enter, and then lead out. And while we're here, we'll do the same thing at the bottom. Start point, end point. I'll do perpendicular this time. And go in that direction, left click, and lead in, and lead out. Done, close, tool setup. Choose our toolpath to edit. And we're going to use all three heads. Distance, I'll click here and choose that and that. And then click here and choose that and that. And then we'll do the same thing for the other cut. I'll do intersection, and we'll go intersection to intersection. So we'll just go to the end here, see what we've got. Sets it to the 40.2 for both heads for 80.04 total, and then the 26.667 head spacing for the three heads for the top and bottom cut. Those are some of the cool things you can do with the tool setup command. Any questions on that? Let me know. Thanks.